is a presentation of Sertoba Media and Comin Media Incorporated. In the words of a singer that we know of with a song that we are familiar with, are you ready for some football? You are, and so are we. This is the first installment of Total Football Talk. How goes it, everybody? Welcome to the maiden voyage and the first episode of Total Football Talk. Hard hitting gridiron news directly for you. I am one of the co-hosts of this program, Cole Johnson. I am joined and will be joined as always by the uber talented co-host of this show, the other co-host, D Willie, aka Drew Willingham. How you doing, man?
One hell of an intro there, Cole. I'm still amazed every single time I see that intro. Every single time. You and I, we're starting off this week hot, brother. But
Yes.
last week leading up to this, you and I are both hot when it comes to intros, promos, your matchmaking with the whole with the transitions, and mine with the promo work that I do.
Yeah.
This is a match made in heaven when it comes to producing content, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we come up with beyond this episode. But for a special Labor Day edition episode to debut, this one's going to be great.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is. And we're going to go into why this show was created. And of course, we're always going to talk football no matter what episode TFT is about. So later on, we will talk about the matchups for the NFL in week one, the big matchups and the others as well. And we'll get into the news and notes of the NFL primarily. But right now, let's get into the opening drive.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Great.
Now, normally when we do opening drive, it will be a recap of what has happened the week before. Now, since we don't have any games that have started that count, well, I mean, we could do preseason games, so we don't want to bore you. What we're going to do instead, is we're going to actually sort of give you a fourth wall appeal for a second and give you the motivation as to why Total Football Talk is a creation. And I will open the floor to you, Drew. So why is this show important to you, and what was the motivation behind creating it?
Always have loved football. I mean, I've always loved baseball as far as playing and being part of. But when it comes to sports, my number one sport has always been football. I've always wanted some type of football talk show. Back in the pandemic of 2020, I started out with a formerly known as now the REDSKINS. It was called Hail to the Red Zone, which was my first official podcast where I just talked about football. Then the name changed. Now you call it the slur, which of course you've been saying you've called it the slur for quite some time, but you call it the slur. So now I can't refer to it as that name, even though I am part Native American, and we won't even go through all that when it comes to all that stuff. Anyway, when it comes to that, the biggest motivation behind it was last year starting to collaborate with you guys, Snowman in the Morning, and
Mhm.
for Snowman Multimedia, and just working together. And of course, we've seen, in the few projects that we've done together, we've done some great stuff and had a lot of fun doing it. And I wanted to do a football show where not only we can get a lot of factual based stuff out there, but with someone that I have a lot of fun with doing in the process. And that's why we had that intro opening that we did when we first started the show about being hyped to get this show started because of said reason. So look forward to getting this thing kicked off. And that's my motivation for getting this thing going.
Wow, man. Look, I do not shortchange the honor that it is to actually share this stage with you. And I really do feel the same. So I totally appreciate you extending the invitation to actually share wanting to do this program. And I look forward to having fun with you too. And that actually extends to mine too. So I, about a year ago, I meet up with this guy who is from the VA and no, not Veterans Administrations. I mean Virginia, and and I didn't know him from a can of paint. And then we talked for about an hour, and most of it was actually wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
And because of it, I said, the way we talked about it, and of course, our mutual friend and my mentality partner, Wise Hefe, was in on it as well. But I was thinking, this flowed really well, and I really like this guy. I don't know what it is about him, but I just get the feeling I might be doing something in the future with him. So we fast forward to when I appeared on In or Out Sports Debate. Loved it, wonderful show. And in the future, you will see commercials that will hype that particular program because to me, that is Sartoba Media's flagship show, and I'm a huge Sartoba Media fan. Uh, so I hear this. I'm on the show. I love it, and then I get on another show that he does. He does this with Soul Man called the Sports Senseis Unleashed, and the first time I step in as a guest host, I'm like, okay, this is nice. Second time, I was like, wait a minute, there's something to this here because the way Drew and I flowed, I love it. And then the last appearance, where it just flowed so well, and we needed to give each other the boost of, man, you know what? Content creation is fun. And we got to do something fun. So Drew has a love of football. I have a love of football, and it's been that way ever since I was 7. And I've always wanted to have a football show, and it was wonderful that we when Drew and I got together and talked about it. He sparked that idea, and I was like, oh, and you're looking to partner with somebody? Okay, well, cool. Let's do it. And there you have it, folks. Total Football Talk was born, and here we are.
One thing I'll add to that as well is
Yes.
another compliment I can give to you is that there's not many people out there that I can say that can keep up with me. I will say this publicly, like Kyle Nash can when it comes to
Yeah.
when it comes to verbatim back and forth. I say
Mhm.
Joey Raymond would be another one, and Rob Johnson, Darrell as well. From the like you said, Legacy Maker crew, but
Mhm.
now going in this light. I would have to say that there's not many people that I know that prepare like you do that are very similar to me. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why this is definitely going to work out because
Oh, yeah.
especially when I read that slate to start this thing out, I was like, we are definitely going to do great things with this.
Yeah. And that's what I really respect about you. Uh, I have not seriously, and I'm not slighting anybody that I create because I create with the Snowman. Shout out to you, Brian Snow. I create Wise and Hefe. Shout out to you, Wise. But you
Sorry.
were the but you are the first content creator that I've come across that prepares like I do. And I'm like, oh, I think this is gonna be cool. I like this. All right. So yes, I was honored that you wanted to have this happen, and here we are. So normally in getting the understanding of why we love what we love, normally it goes to our first loves. So of course we have a lot of loves in football, and normally the first love is the teams that we follow. So what is your favorite team, and has it always been your favorite team, and why? And you've alluded to it before, but I'll let you talk further.
When do you remember last year when I used to play that Thomas Edward Patrick Brady the second clip? Okay,
Yes.
do you remember that moment? Well,
Yes.
I feel
Mm,
like we need a moment, like, at some point where you just record the slur and how you say it, and then every time we talk about this team, you play that clip, okay? I think because when it comes to that, you know it, and I know it when it comes to what's on my left arm, okay? We have
yes.
discussed this in
Yes, we have.
several discussions.
Yes,
And
we
I'm
have.
actually about to share that with the public here in a second because, again, it's grandfathered in. This
Mhm.
right here, this is a picture of my arm.
Oh!
Okay. Look at the detail in that arm. That was like right after one of the last like touch ups on it. But yeah, I threw that
Nice.
cool
Yeah.
background in there. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's same time. That is what's on my left arm for life. So I'm very qualified to discuss about the do's and don'ts for this team.
Of course.
Experience very much heartache within this team, especially during the Daniel Snyder era that finally ended there in this past off season. Finally, and
Bless
now we
you.
actually have owners in there that are worth the you know what. And we got Magic Johnson as a part of that team lead as
Mm,
well. And wherever he goes, no matter what he's been a part of, they win. And they've won championships, or at least a championship, no matter what he's been a part of
right.
outside of basketball as well. And the latest one being the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, he played a smaller part in that realm of it when it came to baseball, more so on the financial, side of it with baseball.
Mhm.
This it looks like he's going to have a little bit more, say so when it comes to this team because he's been very public about the name change at some point. Even though
Mhm.
recently they just came out, even though you and I were just talking about it on Sports Sensays about how hype I was about that petition to change the name back to the slur, but it's not going to happen because Josh Harris has now come out publicly and said it's not going to go back to what my arm has right there when it comes
No
to what.
slur.
Yes, there it is. That's what I'm talking about. While I'm on the screen with my artwork, Cole did it. That needs to be clipped out and used to something at some mother fathering point. Now, back to the formerly known as REDSKINS. The
Mhm.
last time they won a Super Bowl, I was 5 years old. Um,
Mm.
I don't have very vivid memories of that. I have a few small memories of like the Super Bowl party, but not of actually watching the game unless I've watched it now later in life and I can tell you because I've seen it, but not live. So that tells you it's been a very long time because I'm not a spring chicken anymore. So, it's been now 31 years since the last time they have won a Super Bowl. It is time that something happens with this team, and I am liking what I'm seeing with Sam Howell. But we'll cover more of that in later total
Mhm.
football action. But
Mhm.
when it comes to my team that brought me into football, I would have to
Mhm.
say it was the formerly known as REDSKINS.
Hmm. Oh, and Junior, by the way. Junior. I didn't forget. I'm just waiting for the right time to say it. We also have a running joke because he always likes to call Tom Brady Thomas Edward Patrick Brady the second, and
Mhm.
I have to always remind him it's Junior, not second. But I get
Just
why he says second.
sounds
I do.
better. He's on this pedestal. The second
Right.
makes him sound like he's next level on top of the next level he's already on.
Oh gosh. And I think that was the moment I knew I was going to have a really good time with Drew. I'm like, oh wow, we can have banter like that, and it's just easy. Oh, I love it. Okay, this is going to be this is going to be a match made in heaven. All right, so my love affair with football began with the Houston Oilers, and I can actually before I go into the Houston Oilers, yeah, the last time the Commanders, which was another team, as you heard me earlier say, the slur. When when they actually did win the Super Bowl last, I was actually in the military, 18 years old, and I was about 20 miles away from DC. So I was actually in the area when uh, Washington won their last Super Bowl, and it was actually an interesting time. But I'll talk about that at another later date. But my love affair began with the Oilers, and it was 1980. Now, I got into learning everything about the team. I mean, Bum Phillips, Dan Pastorini, Robert Brazil, Elvin Bethea, uh, um, Kenny Burroughs. I mean, all of the legends of that era. I got to know and know well. And then there was number 34, Earl Campbell. And I fell in love with football when I saw him run. And it has not been the same for me since. Ever since I saw him take the field and basically burrow his helmet into a defender, I have always been a football lover. And it has not changed and it has not died down ever since. Now, my love of the Oilers has died down ever since because this wonderful team that was clad in Columbia blue, white, and red decided to up and run out of town. And now they reside in the city in which I live, which is Nashville. And they're no longer called the Oilers, they're called the Tennessee Titans. But I now have a new team. That new team is the Houston Texans, and I attended the first ever game of the franchise, which was a gosh, it feels so good. It was a 19-10 victory over the Cowboys. And to hear dejected Cowboys fan just keep saying how many rings when they had to tout Quincy Carter as their quarterback, it was an absolute thrill. That now 21 years later, it just warms my heart. And I think this is another passion that we share. I think Drew and I have not a total disdain, but we sort of have a hilarious take on all things Cowboys. But I digress. Uh I have said this about the Titans, and yes, I live in the city, but I will continue to say this about them. I don't care if it's the Cowboys. That is that that's the only other team that the Titans play. It could be them, it could be the Steelers, it could be the Packers, it could be the Patriots. It could be any other team in the NFL. I'll root for them before I will root for the Titans any day of the week. And the only time I would actually root for them, the only exception would be if it helps out the Texans win a division or get into the playoffs. That's the only time I'll root for anything Titans. Otherwise, they can go be flushed down the toilet. Now, I love the Texans, and I will be honest with you. They are a dumpster fire, and I will talk more about this dumpster fire later on this episode. But I still love them. I still love them, and I will always love them. So, as you know, Drew loves the Commanders. I love the Texans. I don't have a tattoo like he does, but I think that talks about our love of our teams and how it spiraled into our love of football in general.
Come on, Cole. You can't tell me you don't enjoy watching that quarterback carousel in Tennessee going on right now.
Are you kidding me? I'm loving it. I'm loving the fact that they're having a hard time deciding who should we start. All right, Tannehill, Will Levis, Malik Willis. Well, who should we start? Heck, we can actually put Derrick Henry in the back, behind center. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Oh my gosh! Thank you for giving me that joy.
You're so close to it as well. You're so close to the
Yes.
action.
Yeah, I mean, I'm only 15 miles from the stadium. I mean, I live 15 miles away from it. So, yeah, I am close to it. But the one thing that you will get from us is that, yes, we have our biases, but no matter the team, it could be any of the NFC East for Drew. It could be the Titans for me. We will unadulteratedly give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help us God when it comes to whomever is on any of these 32 teams in NFL. We just will. That's just how we are. Now, we'll have our fun, but we will tell the truth.
100%
Yeah.
factual all day, every day when it comes to that.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
definitely the one thing I will say when it comes to you talking about the Houston Oilers, I miss their uniforms, man. Like that blue
You
in those old school uniforms. Thinking about War Moon in those days, like right before
mm,
the name, and
mhm.
but not the name, but they pretty much relocated. But
Yeah.
that their old school jerseys and the Chargers powder blue old school jerseys are probably my two favorite blue uniforms in sports altogether.
Man.
I love those two style uniforms.
Yeah, I went to see many Oilers games when Moore was the quarterback. So yeah, I miss those uniforms too. And now it has to be nostalgic when I see it instead of yeah, they still exist. And even though they technically do, to me they don't because they died in 1995. But oh well, oh
Just like
well.
the original Cleveland Browns.
Just like the original Cleveland Browns, who are now the Baltimore Ravens, and we will talk about the original Cleveland Browns later on this program as well. Now, as I said, normally we would do the recap of all the games that came from the week before, but since it was only preseason, you just give me a little taste of what opening drive will be, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this because this is how it's going to roll.
All right, let's go. We got trips, right? At 42, 989. On two. Ready? Break!
The sample size.
That's right. Now, now we would normally play commercials here, but we won't for this particular episode because we would want to give you a taste of how things will roll. But the reason why we do commercials is that we have a lot of wonderful creators that are along with us that we want to plug and want to support. Uh, Creators such as Ryan McCarthy, no credentials required, such as YSL Jefe of many different shows, such as Cool McCain, also of many different shows, and many others. And I'll mention a few as we go along. You will be seeing those commercials, and you'll be seeing, of course, In or Out. You'll also be seeing Sports Senseis Unleashed. And you'll probably also see other commercials like Student of the Game. Shout out to you, Kyle Nash. As well as you'll see Cole Sports, Revelations, and Mentality. You'll see all those commercials because
we
we believe in the power of the creator. Go ahead, sir.
we do have one for you today, though.
Yeah, I know we do.
We
I know
got
we do.
one for you today, but we'll save it. You
Yeah,
got
we'll say.
you got to stick around. We got to wait for it. We
That's
just
right.
kind of
That's
throw
right.
it in there.
That's right. Because that's one other program that we're also going to promote too, and we'll do that later. But for now, let's get to the grind, Scoop. All right, let's start out west, shall we? And the Rams Cooper Cup. Now he has had injury issues all ever since training camp began. He was slated to come back to return to open the NFL season, but he suffered a setback in his return from his hamstring injury, and now he is listed day to day, as Sean McVay, the coach of the Rams, have said on Thursday. Now he said that he thinks that they'll just take it one day at a time, and he didn't want him to rush right back, and he feels as though that he obviously makes the Rams a much better team when he is available. Now, my question to you, sir, is how important is Cooper Cup to the Rams' success?
Well, when it comes to Cooper Cup's success, last year they went 2-6 without him. And then when you look at their overall record in the last 5 years since 2018, since October 21st of 2018, their record is 9-8 total without him. So, and 2-6 of those being within the last 8 games. So when I think about that, especially the way this team is put together now, back in 2018, 2019, 2020, around the times where they were building for that Super Bowl run, they could afford to miss him for a few games because they had the talent around them, to kind of pick up his slack. Now that team is completely different in 2023, as we saw last year when they were coming off of,
Mm.
the highs of where they've been, excuse me, within the past few years. We've seen the demise of this team over the past couple of years. So when I think about Cooper Kupp and what he means as he's the leader of the wide receiver core of that team, and especially with the record that I just threw out there, I feel like him being out definitely is a major impact to what this team can produce when they're on the field.
Mm. Yeah, I agree. And yeah, and the Rams are definitely a a study in win now, lose later. But yes, we are talking about the Super Bowl 56 MVP. And yeah, his impact is big. And obviously, Matt Stafford, the quarterback of the team, happens to have supreme trust in him. And when he's not on the field, it seems like everybody seems to be in flux. I have no idea. But all right, moving on. And all right, so you have the Vikings, TJ Hawkinson, formerly of the Lions. The tight end has signed a historic deal for the position. Now, he signed a 4-year contract extension that will pay him at least $66 million and upwards to $68.5 million. Uh, and he said that he's excited to actually play, go out and not have to worry about anything else and move on for everything and win games. And he said that because he took all of the preseason off. But I really don't want to ask about Hawkinson as much as I want to ask the rest of the Vikings. And with the team that's led by Kirk Two Chains Cousins. Shout out to you, Ben. Sa-da-da-da. Should the Vikings be more concerned about their defense and running game than trying to shore up TJ Hawkinson?
Absolutely. Because when you think about the Vikings and the way that they are constructed right now, they're a pass heavy offense. And historically, when it comes to good teams that have made deep runs in the playoffs, you've had to be able to mix it up and had a good variation between the passing and running game. And on top of that, you got to have a decent defense because if your defense is giving up more points than what your offense is putting up on the board, then you have no chance of winning. It's just statistically proven. The numbers don't lie. Do the numbers mean everything in every single category of the game to determine a victory? No. But when it comes to overall points scored in a game, absolutely. So uh, I feel like they need to make some adjustments, especially with that secondary. You got a solid quarterback in Kirk Cousins. I wish we never would have lost him over in DC. But,
Right.
I really like what we have with Sam Howell, which we'll get to that later and more in discussions when it comes to
Mhm.
that team. But for the Minnesota Vikings, you should be very concerned because you're paying TJ Hawkinson very well. You picked him up during the last season after he had the problems that he had in Detroit. So not saying that he was a problem, but he just didn't really live up to the hype because he had a lot of hype coming into the draft not long
Right.
ago, and I felt like I had a lot of hype for him too, but I feel like he didn't fully live up to it. He's had some issues with staying on the field completely or whatnot. So, of course, taking the preseason off to get right, I feel like was a good move. But sometimes it's just like ring rust in wrestling. You can have field rust in football or whatever sport you're playing, and he might have, a little bit of an issue getting off to a decent start to start the season. But the defense though is a big, big red flag. We're gonna have to see what kind of practice they've had during the preseason and training camps that will lead to what their production could be on the field this year.
Yes. And we are talking about a team where, although they did finish 13-4, they gave up more points than they scored. And they have a prolific offense and they put up a lot of points. So that should tell you how troublesome that defense is and how they need to shore up that side of the ball for sure. And it's going to be a little tougher sans a Dalvin Cook on the other side of the ball not being there, but being with the Jets. Ugh, Jets. I'm sorry. I had to shake there. Uh
That's gonna come back to
new
bite him. That's gonna come back to
I
bite him at some point.
I think it's gonna come back to bite the Vikings too. Because when I saw they let him go, I was like, oh man, that's ooh, and you don't have anybody really that's to supplant him. Yeah, I winced literally.
Did you Carson Wentz? As long as you're walking straight and got both of your ankles and didn't snap them in one play like he did, I think you're going to be doing all right there, Cole Johnson.
Oh, Lord, I forget there's another person who's going to go in on Carson Wentz, too. Okay. Cole McCain and you. Love you, Cole. New Dallas quarterback Trey Lance. He made the news because he, of course, was the 3rd overall pick 2 years back. And the 49ers gave us so much to get him, and they got so little when they traded him. Now he says he has a bright, wide smile on his face because he has new grass to mess up. I mean, he has new grass in which to traverse. And he felt as though he tried to do everything he could. It just simply didn't work out. But it is surreal for him to hear that he was going to Dallas knowing everything about the organization. Now, my question to you, sir, is the following. Why are we talking about a 3rd-string quarterback more than, I don't know, Bryce Young for the Panthers, C.J. Stroud for the Texans, or heck, even Sam Howell for your Commanders? These quarterbacks that actually are starting, we're not mentioning, but we're mentioning Trey Lance. Why?
We are talking about Trey Lance now just before the start of the season.
What?
I mean, we are absolutely going to have this conversation right now on the debut episode of Total Football Talk.
What?
We're going to sit here and break down Trey Lance and his awful display of being a quarterback in San Francisco.
What?
Very short period of time. Snowman would be flipping out in this moment if we were talking about this with him in our presence, because his reaction would pretty much be this.
Ain't nobody care. Who cares? Ain't nobody care.
Trey Lance, backup quarterback in Dallas, and some people want to label the Washington team Days of Our Lives. Come on now. Dallas took that title a long time ago because of how they displayed themselves within the playoffs and how it's been over 25 years since they've been superiorly relevant within the NFL. So when I put all that in perspective, of course, it is an absolute dumpster fire ran by dumpster pelicans when you think about Trey Lance being a Dallas. I rest my case.
As the sands flow through the hourglass, so are the days of our life. I'm sorry. And the person who has called them the days of our lives is here. Good morning to you, my mentality brother, Wise El Jefe. The one who he still has not gotten over the fact that when in his appearance on In or Out Sports Debate, my co-host here, my brother here, D. Willie, said that the Giants would start off in their 2023 campaign 1-7. He still hasn't gotten over that.
He's still a little sour over that. I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. Yeah, I acknowledged during that episode, I said, I could be wrong on this, Wise, but I just have a gut feeling that right now they are going to win the first game of the season and then lose the next 7.
Acknowledge me.
My co-host is going snowman with this. Okay. And he also says, WTF? Where's the beard, Mr. Disrespectful? Which that is his nickname for Drew.
I knew that at some point, not that this Mr. Disrespectful wasn't going to come on out, but at some point, somebody was going to call me out for that. Because yes, look at his baby face going on here. I kept the goat right here. I had to. Cole Johnson and I at some point had to share the stage with the same actual facial hair. So for the debut episode, no, not just for the debut episode, honestly, I'm getting ready for the winter coat. We are like animals out here in these streets. So when it comes to taming ourselves, we have to get ready for certain seasons. Pets we shave pets' hairs down to help them out for certain seasons. I'm like a pet when it comes to my face. It looks like a cat is hugging my face sometimes when I have a beard that's grown out. So it was time to trim it down, get it ready to rock and roll for the winter. Moisturize this unit a little bit, shave it down, grow it out, and before you know it, I will have one awesome beard on the face.
Make sure your pets are spayed and neutered. Shout out to you, the late Bob Barker. Uh, and speaking of spayed and neutered, uh, the talk with Dallas was, and I literally cannot believe I was hearing this. And this is what, and we will have actually more elements in which to play with starting the next episode. But there was Cowboys fan actually saying that Trey Lance was going to put the fear in Mr. Interceptions. I mean, Dak Prescott's face because he is on the team. I'm like, really? I'm like, Cooper Rush would be that guy, not Trey Lance.
Charles
Oh
Barkley
my
said it best, Cole.
That's terrible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Chuck. Oh my gosh. I mean, this is a project. And I think, and if people are not realizing this, that is on them. But yeah, it's funny that we're having this discussion over a third stringer. And we're not talking about other QBs who actually earn the right to be on the field and start and not airmail passes in practice. Yes, I'm looking at you, number 5 of now the Cowboys. And speaking of airmailing passes, the new Ravens outlook, they're saying that they are spacing out in formations. They're speeding up the tempo and they're loading the team with offensive weapons. And that is the, I guess you could say, message that they want to send out to the rest of the world. So in the offseason, the Ravens boasted the players around quarterback Lamar Jackson, the man who has newly got his fresh bag. Shout out to you. They signed Nelson Aguilar and Odell Beckham Jr., who were both wide receivers. Also, wideout Zay Flowers, who they drafted in the first round. And the former first round draft pick, Rashad Bateman, is now back. So they figured that these weapons, along with J.D.K. Rawlings, Dobbins, whatever that little back's last name is. I know it's Dobbins. Along with him, they're saying that they're stacked with talent. But I just am not sold on Lamar Jackson. But I'm not going to ask that question about him. I know I will ask that question about him at some point in the 2023 season. I'm directing my ire toward the guy who is leading the team. How long is it going to take before we proclaim John Harbaugh's seat is blazing hot?
We've had many moments with the Baltimore Ravens in this question. So when it comes to this,
Let me talk to you.
it's time that we really seriously consider this situation and this question that Cole's asking, because I think the only reason why he's still there is because they won a Super Bowl within his tenure.
Yeah.
Because there's been multiple situations. I didn't upload it yet, but when it comes to John Harbaugh and the fact they had the Harbaugh Bowl for the Super Bowl, and everybody put that on such a high pedestal for a while, I think that riding those coattails, he's still riding them into this part in 2023. He and Ron Rivera are probably arguably the two coaches at the top of the list at this point, since the other ones that we were talking about last year were already replaced. Now going into this year, both of these teams made some moves to beef up this team, and the Ravens did more to beef up their offense than the Commanders. So I would think that Harbaugh is even more of a hotter seat than an actual Ron Rivera and Riverboat Ron at this point, because if you do not have success with that offense this year, and I think the guy that you're talking about, the running back, his name's J.K. Dobbins, because I've always called him Just Kidding Dobbins. So because he's just kidding with how good he is as a running back. So when you think about all that, they could be similar when you think about the Minnesota Vikings when it comes to question marks at running back and defense, which it's probably one of the first times we've been able to say for the Ravens, because they've been statistically known for being a better defense than offense during their tenure since they moved from Cleveland. But if you have a better offense, it's the same situation like we were talking about with the Vikings just a little while ago. If you have a better offense, and you're scoring all these points, all these touchdowns, making all these moves and moving the chains. But then when you are on defense and the other team has better clock management than you and has the ball more than you, of course they're going to score more. And of course, they're going to defeat you every single time at the games that matter the most. Because anything can happen each and every week. A team that can be 0-15 or 0-16 can get that last win of the season to not go defeated all year round. And we could see some of these teams that are on such a pedestal lose these shocking games at some point during the season because their header is too big, because their offense is so great, like in the situation with Odell Beckham. Just because you have Odell Beckham, who didn't even play last year, and you have just kidding Dobbins, doesn't mean you are going to win. That's how I feel when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes, I know it was J.K. Dobbins. It was like I was like, okay, let me have fun with it to see J or Rodham. Yeah, I mean, it's just it's ridiculous. Look, there has to come a time when you actually can look around and the team is not responding to the coach's voice. And and last year that's what I felt. I felt that especially when they were losing double digit lead after double digit lead after double digit lead. And I'm saying the leadership is not there and it has to come from Harbaugh. And I don't think at times that the team is really listening to him. So I was like, there has to be a moment where you have to say, all right, he has to go and somebody else has to replace him. I'm not saying that I'm rooting for him to be fired. No. I'm saying that it just looks like his time has come and gone. And that happens. It just does. It just happens.
Because even though we would like it to be a spectacle like it is on TV, he's not going to get fired like this.
You're fired.
Oh, Lord. I knew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me talk to you. Yeah.
He
Oh,
got there
Lord.
in time.
I know. I know. Lord, let's talk about these dogs. And this is what the time of the show where we award the guy or guys who were dogs on the field. You know, the ones where you're like, you just love their effort. And they came up like champs. They're champs among champs. So who is your grand champ in this case of the preseason?
I really want to give it to Sam Howell, but I don't want to pick anybody from the Commanders. I don't want to have a homer pick in this case. So I'm going to go in a little bit different of a light, and probably because I've seen so much coverage of this team by Kyle Nash, student of the game, who is a contributor for Satova Media with his shows. And I would have to say, and especially with what he missed last year from playing around with sports betting, and I had to give it to Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley has shown that he can be a vital piece in this offense and can actually do some things for the Jaguars. When Kyle had his show last week, he was talking about he had a guest in there named John talking about the fact that this team could most likely go 13 to 14 wins in this season very easily. I think, they could easily go between 10, 11, 12 wins, probably closer to 11 to 12 wins this year. And it's all going to depend on if Calvin Ridley is there for all 17 games and plays like he did during the preseason and makes the impacts to the game like he did with his previous team when he was with the Falcons. So when I think about Calvin Ridley and his impact to this Jaguars team, and you've got Trevor Lawrence, who's grown from each and every year since he's been, whether it's in college or now in the pros, you got a really good chance, and especially when you got a quarterback like that throwing the football to you.
Good choice. And I think he needs to have a spring back season, considering that he had to sit out last year. So, and I think he's going to help out Trevor Lawrence even more. Great route runner, and that's only going to help a quarterback young that's trying to grow now in his third season. So, yeah, good choice. Good choice. All right, fine. I'll choose a cowboy in this one. All right, so my dog of the preseason is Deuce Vaughn, and the reason being, is that it seemed as if every time he toted the rock, he ran like his life depended on it. And it's been a long time since I've seen a running back actually have that type of heart when he would get the pigskin. And I actually loved it. And I mean, he's diminutive, only 5'6", 175 pounds, and he came from K State, I believe. So I I really I really want to see what he does and how he blossoms and grows. Now I know he'll have the opportunity to run and probably even catch out the backfield more because let's be completely honest. The Cowboys are not going to run Tony Pollard all 3 downs. So uh I think Deuce is going to get his time to chunk deuces at running backs, secondary members, and defensive linemen alike. And God, I can't believe I'm actually throwing flowers at a Cowboy, but yeah, I just have to. Uh, I hope you continue to have that hunger, Deuce, because we need to see more of you out here. Double, especially since, and I'll talk about this a little later, how things have been when it comes to running backs and how the brass thinks of you. But we might now see the new version of Daryl Sproles in Deuce Vaughn.
Hmm. That's a good pick. That's a really good pick. I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
even though it's for a team I don't want to acknowledge, you have to be fair when it comes to our show here talking about all
Yeah.
things football. So I definitely concur with your thoughts. That was a good pick for that.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And I love Ridley too because I think he's gonna make hay, a lot of hay for the Jaguars, especially on offense. Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
great. Yeah.
That's a fire transition.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you. Look, again, we would normally play commercial at this spot, but we will definitely give our shouts to creators that we really do appreciate. And one is from the Playmakers blog network, The Playmaker. And we may have our fun with one another, but he's a huge Rams fan and he does a wonderful show called Ramley Talk. He also does Bearing Down the Gridiron when he talks about college football as well. And in Shooting Lights Out, he also is a huge basketball analyst. So, yeah, definitely check him out at the Playmakers blog, and that's with a Z. And you'll hear that often again for another show. I don't know what show, but you'll probably hit again. But the Playmakers with a Z blog network on YouTube, and you check out his stuff, and you'll actually really love what he does, and you'll fall in love with the guy whose name is Darnell Solins, but we call him the Playmaker, or as one of our creators, and I will shout out later, has said, he should be in the broadcast with his protection program.
Yes. And, Playmaker does a lot of great things with the Playmakers blog and there's other venues that he's got. But my favorite one that I've seen him on is a Snowman in the Morning and the introduction, the transition that Cole plays every time that Playmaker is on there and you've got him and it looks like you're watching like something mixed with Unsolved Mysteries, okay? Mixed with like the X-Files put together, like morphed together, and then you have Playmaker hiding behind the microphone over here like this. It is awesome comedic humor. I love it. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully we'll have more of that on this show too, because well, that's just how we roll. uh let's get to these featured attractions. Well, football begins in earnest. Well, I know college football is already kicked off this weekend, but real football, let's be honest, real football is NFL. Real football kicks off this Thursday night. Kickoffs at 8:20 Thursday. Lions going to Arrowhead to play the reigning defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. Now the Chiefs, are favored by 6.5. And this is an interesting matchup that the Shield and NBC put together. And that's where you'll find the program to be on in NBC. Uh, we have the champs who, yes, they're coming off of, I guess you could say, a mixed off season, and we'll talk a little bit more about them in a little bit. But their opponent, the Lions, they're up and coming. And normally you would think that they would slot someone like the Bills or the Bengals or or a divisional rival in that spot, but they decided to put a team that a lot of America fell in love with over the course of last year. So my question to you is: do you think the Lions can take what they built last year and actually propel them to win the NFC North or the NFC North?
They've got a better chance this year than last year, in my opinion, because especially when you talk about the Minnesota Vikings, earlier when we talk about their question marks with the defense, and they won the division last year with a really good 13-4 record. Lions were just in second place, right behind them with a 9-8 record. The Packers got question marks themselves because there's hype on Jordan Love and how he's been doing really great within training camp and within preseason and stuff, but it's not real games. It's just practice, pretty much glorified practice. And you only went 8-9 with Aaron Rodgers last year, and Aaron Rodgers left with pieces of that team to go to the Jets as well. So they're not the exact same team that they were. So they're on rebuilding mode. So I don't see the Packers really making more of a scare than they did last year. About the same, 7-10 or 8-9 is what I have the Packers going pretty much overall. The Bears, of course, have been playing like dumpster Pelicans for a while. So they don't have to worry too much about them. It's going to be between the Vikings and the Lions for who wins this division. And if the Vikings have more of a setback based on their defensive woes, and we see the Lions build on what they've been building on for the past 2 years, I feel like the Lions have a really good chance of winning this division. It may not be pretty, and it may not be by many games, but the Lions do have a chance this year in 2023 to win this division.
I agree with you on all points. I don't think it's going to be pretty. I don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be by many games. I think it might be by one, or they might tie. And I think the team they would do that with would be the Vikings. They might tie and they might have a tiebreaker over them, but I do think that I hate to say it this way. It seems as though the Lions have become a contender a little bit by subtraction because Mr. Ayahuasca, aka Aaron Rodgers, was the guy who helped the Packers rule over the NFC North. Now he's with the Jets, and we'll talk about him later on in this segment. But you mentioned Jordan Love replacing him and how the team has to find their way and find their footing and how that normally is not always a solid thing. Uh but to me, it just looks like that they are addition by subtraction. They're going to become the forefront runners, and the team that's going to be the ones to beat in that division. And I hope it happens because I love that unit. I love the Lions, and I'm a huge Dan Campbell fan, the coach of the team. Huge Dan Campbell fan.
He was pretty good tight end back in the day too. It's
Yes, he
pretty
was.
solid. It
Yes, he
wasn't like
was.
Hall of Famer tight end, but he was like middle of the pack, and these middle of the pack players are becoming really good coaches in the
Hmm.
NFL. The
Yeah, they
ones who
are.
are really great ones are having a hard time, like
Mhm.
old Vrabes in Tennessee.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I get what he's trying to do. He just doesn't have the horses. But yeah, I think that Campbell has found the pulse of the team, and I mean it's given Jared Goff a new lease on life in NFL. So yeah, it's all things positive to me for the Lions for sure. However, with the defending champs though, yes, they have Patrick Mahomes. Yes, they have their other weapons too, like Juju Smith-Schuster and excuse me, I had to belch. And Marcus Valdez Scantling and Travis Kelsey. But there is a weapon that they don't have right now, and that is their defensive tackle extraordinaire, Chris Jones. Now, speaking of Kelsey, he basically played how can I put this? He played James Brown, and he's like, please, 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 please come home. So just begging Chris Jones to come back to the Chiefs so they can run it back. Will the Chiefs end Chris Jones's holdout, or do you see this being a a situation that lingers?
Even recently, because he's one of the players out there, at least one of the ones out there with a pretty hyped up podcast. Travis Kelsey was him and his brother's podcast, the New Heights podcast, talking about the situation very
Mhm.
recently. And it is impacting the team. I mean, he was very vocal about how this needs to end, pretty much because when you have turmoil like this, and this wasn't verbatim what he said, but this is basically the feeling I'm getting from hearing him say the words. When you have stuff like this happening, it causes a rift within the locker room because even though he's probably still working out and still remaining in decent shape, you're not getting the reps that you would get in walkthroughs in practice. Because even though if you're not taking the hits, during the preseason like you would during the season to get ready for the season, you are still not doing the walkthroughs. And you could be a 2-time Super Bowl champion like this guy Chris Jones is
Yep.
is the defensive tackle for this team.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of times, whether it's the Madden curse, which was definitely broken by Patrick Mahomes, the first Super Bowl that he got. When you think about all of that, not having the reps and being out for this amount of time, and you're this close to the season starting, you can sign the contract tomorrow, and I feel like you would still be affected by week one. But when you are this close to starting the season, we're less than a week away at this point, from getting to football action. I feel like at this point, whether he signs it or not, it's not going to be that big of an impact on this team. Being without him, if he misses time, is going to be more of an impact than him being
Right.
there. But him actually showing up this late, I feel like he's gonna have some rust to work out when he first comes back to the team.
It's reminiscent, although they play different positions. It's reminiscent of, wow, 30 years ago, when Emmett Smith did the same thing, where he held out and he held out and did not even start the first or the second game of the season. He actually uh, renewed his contract and joined the team week 3. So it could have that type of lingering effect. Now with the Cowboys that year, they lost those 2 games that Emmitt Smith was not there, and then when he was there, they only lost one the rest of the way in route to another Super Bowl championship in that triplets era. Now, am I saying that is this going to happen for the Chiefs with Chris Jones? Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, you never know. But yeah, I do think that this is a problem that they need to solve and solve fast because he is the quarterback of that defense. Yes, I know he's not a middle linebacker, but that defense takes their cues after him. And in many ways, the team takes his cues after him too. So he's an important cog to that wheel.
The good thing about with what you brought up though is Emmett Smith rebounded, right? Like he
He did.
came back, took a little while maybe to get the juices flowing, but he
Mhm.
rebounded. The worst situation I think of in this that could possibly result to this is look at Le'Veon Bell, and he was coming off of probably
Ooh,
his best season of his career, pulled
good.
that holdout move, just completely screwed up that season, then comes back and never got back to the form that he was at when all that
Mhm.
stuff went down. So that's the thing I'm concerned about. Chris Jones is 29 years old, and his best accolades might have already surpassed him, especially if you're in a situation that could be comparable to Le'Veon Bell at some point.
And yeah, and and Le'Veon understood how horrible of a decision that made. This past all season, he actually did take to Instagram and apologize to Steelers fan because of it. And I hope that does not happen because yeah, that would be, I think, disastrous for him, for Chris Jones. I mean, all right, who do you have in this game between the Lions and the Chiefs?
I want to say the Lions. I really do, but I feel
Mhm.
like it's going to be the first game of the year. The first game of the year is not always pretty, whether it's a low scoring
Mhm.
game to determine who wins or it's one
Indeed, it
sided.
is. Mhm.
Yeah. So With this, I want the Lions to win, but I feel like the Chiefs are going to edge it out, and it's going to be due to some late game moves and heroics by Patrick Mahomes. Like, he is still on fire, and even in a lot of pain, helped lead that team to a Super Bowl victory last year through everything. And on top of that was a part of the quarterback documentary that could be a major distraction to anyone. Look at what happened with Marcus Mariota. However, you got Mahomes that did a complete 180 and used it for his benefit, helped him propel that team to a Super Bowl victory.
Yeah, good point. Good point, and I agree with you. I love the Lions. I think that I think they're still at the stage where moral victories can count. Although I know that they're grown men, and an L is an L. I get that, but I think in a team with a team that's still trying to be the build in the building block stages of learning how to win, I don't think they're ready yet to go to a place like Arrowhead and pull that off. So, although I think they'll give a good effort because that's just how they roll, they'll fall short to the Chiefs, and I would not be surprised if the Chiefs are subpar and they don't come out with the energy that they normally do come out with, and they are a little sluggish, and they are misfiring. But I think the Chiefs will take it because I just think they are the better team, not by much, but they're better. They're the better team. Sunday night, also on ABC, we have the Cowboys and the Giants, two teams that my partner loves. And if you believe that I have a land in New York, an island actually in New York that I have for sale, kickoff is at 8:20 there as well. That's next Sunday night. Uh, for the Cowboys. Let's see if I can think of a question I can ask. Let's see, CD Lamb, no. Trayvon Dick, no. Michael Park, no. Can Dak Prescott stop throwing interceptions?
You know, and I can't remember how many years ago it was, but they showed that wild hips routine he does before games. You
Yeah.
know, where he's swinging back and forth. And I saw this video not too long ago. And I can't remember who did it because I wish I would have been able to get that clip before now. Now seeing the slate that we have for this show. And all it talks about, it shows the guy reenacting him the hips and then just throw an interception. And then moving the hips again and an interception. Because all he's doing is positioning himself perfectly to the other team. So if you, Dak Prescott, who were the one who took over for Tony Romo after a beat up Tony Romo had to be replaced, and you did well enough that season to retire Tony Romo, since then, you have not lived at the hype for the most part. You've had some flashes in the pan, but you haven't lived up to all that hype that you got for replacing Tony Romo that year. And the following year, coming in, they're talking about they're going to go to the Super Bowl, whether they're going to win or not. Newsflash, you're not going to do it. And another newsflash for you, you're not going to go to the Super Bowl with Trey Lance either. It is, you guys are heading towards dumpster pelican status. You're probably already there, but I'm giving you a little bit more benefit of the doubt because of the decisions you've made, Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones, and now McCarthy. I'm not even going to slip up and call you McCarthy. You are straight up McCarthy.
And yes, I will say this now. For the 28th consecutive year, Cowboys fan, your team is not making it to the set. No, your team's not making it to the NFC Championship game. Forget Super Bowl. For the 28th straight year, your team's not making it to the NFC Championship game. Because if you have Mike McCarthy as your head coach, you're not going to go far. Oh. Teaser. Anyway, to the other side of the ball, the Giants. Now, defensively, I will say this, and Wise knows this. He knows this quite intimately. I am a huge fan of Dexter Lawrence. Whew, gosh, man. I love seeing defensive interior linemen know how to abuse the middle of an offensive line. Yeah, love him, love him. And I mean, they have other dogs on defense. Kayvon Thibodeau is another example. But to me, the Giants are going to go as far as that offense goes. And you have Daniel Jones, who, yes, he only threw for 15 touchdowns last year. but he only threw for 7 picks. So that's a plus. He actually learned how to take care of the ball last year.
Mhm.
And now he has a better weapon a better weapon he's ever had in Darren Waller at tight end. Will the Giants be more offensively prolific with not just relying on Saquon Barkley?
I feel like they have a really good chance to do that. The Giants have been building a pretty good team over the past couple of years. I mean, post Eli Manning era, it was looking a little scary at first, but Daniel Jones has definitely evolved into a pretty decent quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback, and I wouldn't even put him in elite status yet. Still needs to do what he did last year a little bit more and be consistent with that, because we've had bad quarterbacks in the past have one decent year, and he had that
Yeah.
one decent year last year. Is he going to build on that is the question and
Mhm.
actually remain consistent? Even though a big part of that 1-7 with Wise was a rib, okay, as they say in wrestling, it was
Of
a
course it
rib,
was.
okay. However, this is the game that I said, Wise El Jefe, if the Giants are going to win before they go 0-7. So you will get this victory as a Giants fan on this date, and you will get it at home.
Okay. So you say that the Giants are going to win. Okay. I think so too. I think this is going to be a Giants victory. I know the Cowboys have had the Giants number as of late, but I think the Giants can find a way to put it together now on both sides of the ball. I'm not sold on how the Cowboys offensively are, because I think they still have too many question marks in terms of the identity. Defensively, they're there. Uh, their defense is great. I have no issues with the Cowboys defense whatsoever. I just think the Giants defense can play just as about as on par with the Cowboys defense. And I just think the Giants offense actually they know who they are, and I think that helps them out. So yeah, I think the Giants are gonna take it too. And we get to the 9-11 game. Monday night, Bills, Jets at the Meadowlands again. And kickoff there is at 8:15, I'm sorry, Eastern. And I'll start with the Bills. Is it possible for them? Is it possible? Is it within the realm of possibility for them to stop running Josh Allen so much?
It worries me how much they run Josh Allen at times. I mean, especially when you are going to be battling Captain Ayahuasca, okay? You're going to be
Oh
battling
Lord.
Captain Ayahuasca on 9/11 in New York. You're coming to town. You're battling Captain Ayahuasca. You do not need to run all over the place because, I'm telling you, Captain Ayahuasca is not going to be running all over the place. He can move a little bit. He's not a complete Statue of Liberty like Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II was.
Junior.
Go! I'm telling you. You can call him the second. I have given you the term, the slur from my formerly known as REDSKINS, the team that I call. You call the slur that I have the tattoo right here on my arm of, okay? The tattoo, the fine work of art right there. That's me, my body with a little bit of chubbiness there. That is my arm. Now, when I look at this situation right here, you got to give me something. In this situation, you got to give me a little bit
Okay,
right
fine. I'll give you the second, Junior.
there. Dumpster Pelican status. They got to get it together. They've got to get it together when it comes to the Bills, because this is another team over the years that has had a lot of hype. Josh Allen has been a very, very good quarterback coming into this team and has grown each year. But every time I see him run, I'm thinking to myself, it only takes one hit to really screw up the trajectory of your career. And we've seen it happen in the past. Will it be something as detrimental as like the RG3 situation of back in 2012? No, I don't
Oh
think
no.
we're going to see anything quite like that ever again. Teams are getting a little bit more smarter, sliding, protecting the ball. And Josh Allen is a great mobile quarterback. But
Mhm.
some of the risks that he's taking with running as much and then calling as many are way too many. He needs to spend more time in the pocket because he's proven he's not a scrub in the pocket. He just needs to believe in himself a little bit more.
Wow. Well said, Drew. Yes. Yes. 100. And that has been my issue within the last 2 years. It's like, man, trust your instincts in the pocket. You actually have within your pocket a game where you threw less incompletions than you did touchdowns. So you know that you can take care of business in the pocket. And that was a playoff game. So you know you can take care of business in the pocket. You don't need to run all the time. I mean, yeah, you can scramble 4 or 5 times, maybe a little more than that. But I mean, there's times we have seen him run the ball 15, 16, 17 times a game. And I'm like, man, little man. And they're going to treat you like you are a tight end, where they're just going to take their shots. And I'm talking about secondary members, linebackers. And if a defensive lineman can get a hold of you, them too, they're going to lick their chops and give you the best shot possible. And it's unnerving to me that he just puts himself in such harm's way, and he doesn't have to.
I just think of it this way: when you're coming into town, you're battling Captain H, Captain Ayahuasca. You are there toe to toe with Captain Ayahuasca, and he's not running around. You don't need to be running around. Just stand there, do your job, hand the ball off to your running back, throw the ball around. You do not need to be the guy running around. You need to stay there for all 17 games and get this team ready for the run it deserves to go on.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I agree with you. And speaking of Captain Ayahuasca, look, I get it. Jets fan. This is the best quarterback you've had in your team's history. I know. The best one you can rah-rah sis boom bob for possibly is Brett Favre, but he gave you 1 year action and wanted to send naked pictures to people. Beyond that, your claim to fame is having Vinny Testaverde, Chad Pennington, and Joe Namath as QBs. So I get that you're happy that you got one in Aaron Rodgers, although he is on the biggest of twilights of his career. But that defense, Quinnen Williams, Sauce Gardner, can we just talk about them more than we do Aaron Rodgers? Because that is where their bread is buttered.
That was a big contract extension this offseason, Quinnen Williams.
Yeah, that was a beautiful, big contract extension for them. Yeah.
And in the right time frame, too, because it's not lingering on like these holdouts we're talking about, like with Chris Jones and other ones of the past. Like they got the business taken care of before a detrimental part of training camp, got taken care of, brought this man in, and he started proving. And that's the good thing about Hard Knocks, and especially in this case with the Jets being able to see more behind the scenes action, you can see how much of an impact he makes on that defense.
Yes. He is the. I always like to say there is a guy on defense. It doesn't necessarily have to be on the line. It could be a lineman. It could be a linebacker. It could be a secondary member. But to me, he is the straw which stirs that Jets defense drink. And there's many good defensive players on that squad, but he is the guy that if the Jets are going to go far, and I'm not just talking about this year, I'm talking about in the future. If the Jets are going to go far, he's going to have to give you that inspired play where he gives you one of those wonderful plays, like a key sack or a key tackle for loss, like in the fourth quarter, and it's a 3rd and short, and he sneaks into the backfield and trips up a running back, or he gets a fumble, or even he gets a pick. If he can give you one of those types of plays often, the more of those types of plays he particular can give you, the further along the Jets can go. And I really believe this is where the rubber meets the road for them. If he can be that stalwart figure and they allow him to cook, there's no telling how far that team can go. And I'm talking about even with horrible QBs. Now, it would help if they have good ones, but they could go far because their defense will be able to write its own ticket. But gosh, can we just stop talking about Aaron Rodgers? We get it. It's just frustrating.
I mean, of course, Aaron Rodgers gives that team a really good chance to get over the hump because you look at what Zach Wilson was doing with chasing the older ladies behind closed doors and the situations that he got himself in. And we got Captain H coming in, who comes in with a huge clout that he's had since 2010 when he won the Super Bowl. But even though you've had some seasonal MVPs since then, yes, Melvin, very perfect with that. Even though you've had season MVPs since then, You haven't done much, Captain H. You've gone to the NFC Championship game and lost.
Often.
So, yes. So, when I think about this, Captain H can go for Captain Ayahuasca or Captain Hype because you've had a lot of hype this offseason leading up to your departure from the Packers to now the Jets. And even though Hollywood-wise, you're looking pretty good on paper when it comes to the hard knocks, situations and stuff like that,
Mhm.
you could have too much hype under you to when the big moment comes. You could fold, or we're completely wrong and you guys are going to the Super Bowl. We'll see in January.
Yeah, we will. Yeah, the game is going to be on ESPN/ABC as well. Who do you have winning this one?
Josh Allen stays healthy and doesn't run it too much. The Bills win this game by 10 points.
10. Okay. Yeah, I think the Bills can win it. I can see them actually having not necessarily the same type of margin of victory, but I can see them playing similar inspired football like they did opening night last year, where the Rams just had no answer for the Bills. I can see the Bills coming out and doing that. Maybe not to that degree because unfortunately Von Miller is not going to play this week. I mean next week, but I think they're going to try. I think they're going to try their best to be inspired, of course, by one Damar Hamlin, and I think they want to distance themselves from the trouble that Stephon Diggs and the Bills had in the offseason and leading into training camp. So I think they want to prove that they actually are a better team and a more cohesive one. So I see the Bills taking care of business against the Jets, and not because I can't stand Captain Ayahuasca. It's just I believe they're the better team because they just are. And those are your featured attractions. Now, you would think that I'm, and when I'm shouting out people, you would think that I'm trying to get under uh, under Drew's goat, but I'm not. But this particular content creator that I'm going to shout out is one that's become my brother, and that's one Cool McCain. And the reason why I say that about Drew is because he's one of the most ardent Eagles fans that you'll ever meet. Uh, and he does a wonderful show, 8:30 Eastern every Wednesday, Eagles Elite. And if you want to hear how a fan who is honest and objective in his opinion about the team, if you want to hear how it's supposed to sound, Cool McCain is your guy because he pulls no punches when it comes to Eagles. None. Zilch, zero. And I've respected him so much learning that about him. That's Eagles Elite. You can find it on the YouTube channel at Eagles Elite. All one word. And it's at 8:30 Wednesday nights, 7:30 Central, 5:30 Pacific.
Yeah, and I don't even like the Eagles, but I like watching Cool talk about them. So, and I
Yeah.
like talking about them, like when he had that appearance on the Inner Sports Debate. And at some point, when I bring that show back in the next couple weeks, I hope to have him back on there again soon, which he definitely will be. But right now, we're building 2 new shows. This one and another one we're going to show you here shortly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I'm looking forward to showing that, and we will show that later on. But it's time to bring out there's a utensil I gotta bring out. Oh
Uh-oh.
yeah, it's this one. So we talked about Mike McCarthy earlier on. We get a chance to talk about him now. So he gets the chance to play call like he did when he was the head coach of the Packers. Now that the former offense coordinator Kellen Moore is gone, so he now gets to have the tote board, as I call it, or the Waffle House sheet, and he gets to simply wield his weapons as he so wishes and desires. My question to you is: how long is this man's leash?
Not very long at all. I don't believe. I mean, when you think of his track record of how things ended in Green Bay, you think about the hype that came in when he came into Dallas. and how he hasn't really delivered much since he's been there, and how there's been, it seems like similar turmoil that he's had here in Dallas that he had before when he was in Green Bay, just having kind of a slight of a disconnection with the team and how he's orchestrating the activities that go along within the team, especially when you got the front office making moves to bring in someone like Trey Lance, who, when you already have Dak making the problems that he's had, you got Trey Lance, who had all the clout on him coming into San Francisco, and then the way things ended, Trey Lance looking for a situation to prove himself. Dak's looking for a way to stay on top as the leading quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, even though he has a pretty good contract right now. Anything can happen, especially if he continues to produce bad numbers and bad productivity. So when it comes to Mike McCarthy, he's got a lot more riding on this than any other person on the chopping block situation, because you have multiple elements at bay here. If you do not keep everything together in-house and don't produce much on the field, you're going to be out of here very soon.
Yeah, I really believe that Mike McCarthy needs to do something that the Cowboys haven't done in almost 3 decades, and that's actually play in the NFC Championship game. If he lacks that, if he falls short of that, I believe this is it for him. I think this is the last season for him, and he needs to do that. And the reason why I say I believe this is the last season for him is I don't believe that team is going to make it that far. And what sucks about saying that is that defense can make that team go further than that. That defense is ready to that defense is ready to be in the Super Bowl, but that offense is not. And the reason why it's not is that you all consistently try to make Dak Prescott something he isn't. He is a play action, run oriented, Mr. Scrambler type of player. Take your shots deep 3-4 times, play action a couple times, and use check downs and throw screens and curls and flats and slants. To have him drop back and throw the ball more than 35 times is at the team's detriment and peril. But McCarthy loves to throw the ball, and that's why I think his leash is short, and his leash will be his leash will be gone because Jarwal isn't getting any younger and he wants a Super Bowl championship.
And I haven't really dig deep into the numbers, but I feel like the Cowboys have had more turnovers since McCarthy's been a part of this team, because when it comes to the rhythm that Dak's in, he's in more of a like turnover type rhythm since I felt like since he's been part of the McCarthy style of coaching. Because the one good thing about real life, not Chucky John Gruden, but the one that looked closer to Chucky than him, with being Jason Garrett, is the former head coach of this team. He was a former quarterback, so his relationship with Dak, they weren't really that bad of an offensive team when he was the Cowboys head coach, that being Jason Garrett. It was just some decision making that they were doing within a 2-minute drill, and along with some bad defensive errors, that now it's completely flipped. You've got the defense is doing really good, and the offense is having the woes the defense had back then, and you're still having the bad decision calls by the head coach. So you didn't really elevate your team by bringing Mike McCarthy in here a couple of years back.
Exactly. I couldn't have said it better than myself. Better myself, and it's just horrible seeing that. And it's like they just keep bumping their heads, and they're going to keep bumping their heads. And speaking about an organization that keeps bumping their heads, not because of this decision. Ron Rivera, the head coach of your beloved Commanders, he decided to go with Sam Howell as the starting quarterback for the team. Actually, I think that's a good choice. And yes, he is the former North Carolina quarterback. And the decision came this past week, and he feels good about it. But the focus is not with Mr. Howell. No, the focus is with Mr. Rivera. Now, earlier in the preseason, there was some issues with the players and the offensive coordinator slash assistant head coach Eric Bieniemy, and players went to Ron to voice their displeasure of how Mr. Bieniemy was treating the players. So when are they going to give Mr. Bieniemy the keys to be the head coach of the Commanders?
It depends on how much more often you got players coming up with, some negative things to say about Eric Bieniemy and his coaching style. But you got to think about the fact that this is the type of style that he had when he was with Kansas City, and it worked, and it produced greatness over there, especially over the run that he had, culminating in 2 Super Bowl championships. Are we saying that Eric Bieniemy is going to come in here with that style, mold this team into Super Bowl contenders? No, but you got to be on the same page. So
Mhm.
not only Eric Bieniemy, but your head coach as well. When you got an assistant head coach and a head coach, which means you got one that's kind of overcoaching in a way, from what it sounds like with Eric Bieniemy, and you got one that's undercoaching. There needs to be a balance. One needs to lighten up maybe slightly, and the other one needs to start giving a little bit more when it comes to their impact on these players. Because if you're too soft, and that's SAWFT, if you are too soft in this league, it is the NFL for a reason, the not for long league. You will be out of there in whatever position you're in if you're too soft to get the job done.
Thank you, Big Cass. Or I'm sorry, Big Bill. Uh, I agree with you. I think it's a case of, and I don't even think that BME needs to lighten up. I think he's good as is. Now, I agree with you. Would this mean that this will automatically make the Commanders title contenders? No, but I think they could benefit from what he has learned and how he has operated, and he has rubbed players the wrong way before. I mean, LaShawn McCoy has outwardly said that he is not the biggest fan of Eric Bieniemy and thought that he was a puppet when he was with the Chiefs. So so he has rubbed players the wrong way. However, you have players who will sing his praises. Travis Kelce is one, and Patrick Mahomes is another. So he has a lot of cachet with them, and he's bringing that championship pedigree into Landover or Ashburn, wherever they want to practice or where they want to play. Uh,
Of all of Eric Bieniemy's former players, Cole, LaShawn McCoy has no room to talk about the coaching style and being a puppet, because LaShawn McCoy was just as much of a puppet for that championship run that they had when he was with that team than Eric Bieniemy was. Because what
Mhm.
did LaShawn McCoy do? And not only that championship, but the one previously with the Eagles. Absolutely nothing. Because he played like a dumpster pelican too at the end of his career.
Yeah, yeah, and you exactly stated how I felt about Sean McCoy. I'm like, come on, Shady, really? Please, son. Yeah, I think, and I like Ron. I think that I almost get the feeling that he sort of feels as though he's like Boys to Men. He's at the end of his road, and I think he wants to enjoy what little time he has left and sort of give a proper send off and I guess grease the wheel for Bieniemy to take over. That's how I feel. And
I
hopefully with what he has had to endure, his exit will not be forced. It'll be more along the lines of this is what he wants to do, and it's mutually done.
I see it be more of a transitional move. I don't see him necessarily getting axed. It might be more so a
Oh yeah,
resignation
yeah,
and a transition into more front office moves, because
I
and
can
he
see
can
that.
work within the front office, because when you look into it, even though I'm not a fan of the name, Ron Rivera was heavily involved in the front office decisions to what the name was going to be changed to, and had a lot of say so, and it had a lot of impact when it came to that and other front office moves. So
Mm.
it's not saying he's not absolutely bad. He's not bad for the game or bad for the team or
No,
anything,
no,
but
no.
he's getting up there in age when it comes to head coach age. He's been around the game of football and professional
Long
football in
time.
the NFL, yes, a long time, at least 40 years at this point. As a
Hmm.
player, in the early
Yeah.
80s,
Hmm.
and a coach right after that as assistant coach, Chargers
Hmm.
and all that, and now
Yeah.
he's the head coach, of the Commanders, and before that had his run with the Panthers, which Cam Newton carried him to that Super Bowl appearance. So that's why, even though he came in with that hype to Washington, getting to the Super Bowl, it was kind of overlooked a little bit that if it wasn't for Cam being there, the Panthers weren't getting to the Super Bowl in Ron Rivera's tenure.
Agreed. Agreed. They weren't. And yeah, I think it's going to be more along on those lines. I think it's going to be, like you said, it's a transitional thing. Sort of similar to what we saw with Bruce Arians doing to Todd Bowles, where he announced that he was going to resign. He gave the head coaching reins to Todd Bowles, and he went on to being the consultant in the front office. I could see Ron doing that, and I think he's trying to, carve his way into exactly the role in the front office he's going to have. And I hope that is what happens because he's a good guy and he deserves that.
But my kind of side note question to that is, do you think that if that happens, that he's going to have as much of a hard time that Bruce Arians had at the beginning? Because Bruce Arians at the beginning of that didn't transition to that very well. He was kind of butting heads with still players of the team and even the coaching staff of decisions that were being made without him being on the field.
He might, but I think here's the difference. You saying that he already has Rivera, already has some feel with the front office. I don't get the feeling that that Bruce Arians did as much. And plus, Arians is the type of guy that just he could rub you the wrong way at times. Rivera doesn't strike me as that as much.
Yeah,
He strikes me as a type that people rah sits with Bob behind him. That's the feel I get with Ron.
Bruce only got that position because they won a Super Bowl the year prior.
Exactly.
Like had they not got that, and it was only because of Thomas Silver, Patrick Brady II. That's the only reason why he got that job.
Nice. Now we will transition into an honor that I think is long due. The Houston Texans, they are going to induct Justin Jr. Watt into the Ring of Honor. And I think it's going to be wonderful. The ceremony is going to take place October 1st, and the official induction ceremony will take place halftime of the game when his younger brother TJ comes in and plays against the Texans. Of course, Watt plays for the Steelers. Now, I can go with platitudes about JJ Watt all day long, but I'm not focused on him. I'm focused on the figurehead of the team in Cal McNair. And I know this almost feels as though I'm just throwing this out there at you. But why does this eyesore Cal McNair exist?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question on how it even exists and what it's actually going to do with that. Because when it comes to Cal McNair, what has he done that's been a very positive impact for this Houston Texas team? I can't think of anything in the ownership time frame that has gone on within the Houston Texans. When you think of David Carr, you take J.J. Watt out of that equation, and the Houston Texans have done absolutely nothing for 20 years. Okay? So when it comes to how you run this team, there's not many people that I could say did a worse job than Daniel Snyder, but even Daniel Snyder had made playoff runs. I wouldn't say runs, but has more playoff appearances in this time frame than I believe than the Houston Texans do, or at least made more noise than the Texans did. And if it wasn't for J.J. Watt and potentially Gary Kubiak, because Gary Kubiak was a pretty decent coach too, you wouldn't have had the success that you had during those decent years that you had with the Texans. Now you are absolutely playing like the Cleveland Browns of 1999 when they first came in the league, and now looking like the Dumpster Pelican Award winners of the league.
Dumpster Pelican Award winners. Oh, Lord. I'm dealing with effing moron of the year with one show. I'm dealing Dumpster Pelicans here. The colorful names to call people the worst is hilarious to me. Cal McNair is a chip of the old block, and I mean that wholeheartedly and honestly because we were happy with his father Robert McNair when he brought the team to Houston, and everything seemed to be fine and rosy and all that. But then we got a chance to see that he had his ways, and his ways weren't all that favorable. Uh, to the point where he actually called the players. Well, he actually said when all the Colin Kaepernick thing happened, uh, and I will get the quote here eventually. But he actually said, "Yeah, it's like the inmates running the prison." Close quote. Yeah, that was the late owner Robert McNair. His son took over, and he has done less. And and the biggest claim to fame that he has is wanting to wash his hands clean of the Deshaun Watson. I want to invite a cute honey over so she could see me masturbate.
Or cut a hole in the table while you're getting a massage.
Right. And it was publicized that the team bought him hotel rooms for him to do this. And I'm saying to myself, this is what you will go down as being, Mr. McNair. Here it is. Live in living color. Uh and what makes it even worse is the person who actually does own the team, his mother, Janice, she really doesn't care about the team. You don't see her. She doesn't care. She can get two whatevers about if the Houston Texans exist. So
She's one with money. She just wants
yeah.
money.
hmm So it's ridiculous to me when I see Cal. It's like somebody just move him out the paint, please, please, somebody. Just he needs to go. No, no, he upsets me. So yeah, almost every time I see Texans, I just get upset just because of him, and that's my team. That's what's sad about it.
And it's you're kind of treading in. Well, I don't. Maybe the Cardinals are treading in Houston Texans territory because I'm thinking about
They
that
are.
with the Bidwell family.
They are.
Because you think of I call him Kyler Duty because he likes to spend a lot of time playing Call of Duty video games and less time studying the playbook and staying healthy to be on the field. If you spent more time in the gym working out, which we could say that for all of us, get in the gym a little bit more. But you are a professional athlete getting paid to do the job. It's your job to stay healthy, be in top tier shape, to perform at your position. And you've had issues now with the quarterback position and other positions within your team in Houston. And the same thing's going on in Arizona as well. So when I compare and contrast two very bad franchises at this point, they're very comparable in that sense in that aspect.
They are. They are. And Lord, yeah, I can go on about them too. Whenever you need to put a contract clause where it states you must be in the playbook, that tells you something right there. And people have the nerve to be in an outrage about that. But I'm not talking about the Cardinals. Yes, this is directed to you, Mr. Cal McNair. The sooner you sell your interest to the team, the better off Houston, forget the Texans, Houston will be. Because you just simply don't have it in you. You don't really care if the team does well. You don't care where the team goes. You're almost like your mother. You only care about the status and the money. And it's not good. It's not good at all. It's almost this worthy.
Perfect.
Snowflake. And now we get to, I think, the most exciting part of our show, the snowflake of the week. And I will let you kick things off, sir. Who is your snowflake of the week or the preseason?
I'm going to stick within a team that I gave praise to for the dog of the week pick. Okay. I picked the Jaguars because I was talking about Calvin Ridley. But you know who I think my snowflake pick of the preseason is? And it shouldn't be that hard to get on a team, but your dad's the head coach and your name is Josh. I'm just going to call you Peterson's kid, okay? Doug Peterson's kid. Because even in a situation with Urban Meyer and Tim Tebow, okay? Tim Tebow sucked and didn't get on the team. But you couldn't even get on a 53-man roster through nepotism with your father. You had to go into the practice squad. You are a tight end. You actually have a lot more potential than a Tim Tebow. If you played like you did in college and had the hype that you did to be on former teams leading up to this, so you didn't get that far, but you still were on other teams and the USFL. And I think about how your production was. You have a portfolio that deserves to be the 53rd person on that roster. And you had the opportunity to do it with your dad. Your dad thinks you suck because you didn't make the roster. This is worse than Little League and your dad bitching you because you had a bad quarter of football. Your dad said, my son sucks and cannot be on my team. And you had to put him on the practice squad. You are the epitome of snowflake, of the preseason, of training camp. You deserve to be on a practice squad when you don't give it your best. And you, Doug Peterson's kid, a.k.a. Josh, didn't give it your best. You're the snowflake of the week.
You're going with Doug Peterson's kid. Wow, that's cold. Wow, good choice, but that's cold. Ooh, that's cold. I like that though. That was cold. I don't think I could top that, but I'm not gonna go with a player, because to me, the snowflake of the week is definitely a snowflake of the preseason. That would be you, Mr. Jim Irsay, the owner of the Indianapolis Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you, sir, had the audacity to open your mouth and say that, you know what, these running backs, these Saquon Barkleys, these Josh Jacobs, they all have the nerve to want to hold out and want more money, but they collectively bargained for this. You're correct. I'm not saying you're wrong in that. But the problem, though, sir, is this is the stance you have. And then when your running back, Jonathan Taylor, decides to say, I need to go, I need to be traded because I don't feel the love here, you want extra value in return. You basically say to these running backs, oh, yeah, get it how you live, get it off the glass. Whatever you get, that's what you deserve. But you, sir, you want more than what the other 31 teams say a running back is worth.
Yes.
And that is what I find hilarious. You had the nerve to go to the Dolphins. And they were willing to be a trade partner with you, but you asked for Jalen Waddle. Come on, dude. You should know better than that. You should have known when the J in Jalen came out of your mouth. You already knew the answer would have been a dial tone in your face. Get out of here, man. Goodness gracious. Look, you'd be better served if you were to just hand the reins of the team to your daughter, because I think she would do a better job, or one of your daughters, because I think they would do a better job than you, sir, because obviously you want to be in Rock and Roll Hall of Fames while getting sauced. So just simply get out of the picture, because you're making this league look bad, and you're making your other 30 owners and the principal person who represents the Packers look bad. You're making them look bad because it makes all of us think that you're out of touch. Oh, well, I might not be far off. I think you are. So, sir, you can say that the running backs can get the little bit of penance you think they deserve, but don't say that and then turn around and want the whole ranch and the whole Fort Knox for something that you have said out your mouth. You're not happy. I mean, that you're happy that these running backs are getting, because they're getting little, and you should be upset, right? That you're not getting more than what you think your running back's worth. No, Jonathan Taylor to you is worth the same as the rest of these running backs. Why? Because you and your general partners think that the running back position is obsolete. That's not on them. That's on you. I just want sun to just simply soak down upon you and you can just melt into the ground. Oh.
To add something to your pick, which is a great pick, by the way, when it comes to Jim Irsay, you're talking about, pretty much him being greedy with the decision
Mhm,
making that he's making.
mhm.
It's already been proven in the past to like a little bit too much. It was greedy with doing what he was doing with it back in the day. Okay. And
Oh
getting
yeah.
caught. Okay. So how do we know he's not and then trying to make decisions like this? Haven't you not learned from history that when you're desperate enough to make a move, you're going to get less trade value in return because they know that you are desperately trying to
Desperate.
get rid of this person and they're going to try to give you less to get that person.
Mhm.
It's supply and demand.
And that's what he gets. That's exactly what he gets.
So stop.
Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Yes. Stay away from the sauce and stay away from the nose candy. Public service announcement from Total Football Talk. All right, time to get to the best of the rest, I should say, of these games for week 1, which starts which will kick off would be this time next Sunday. All right, we will start with the Texans and Ravens, 1 p.m. kickoff, all times Eastern. 1 p.m. kickoff. The Ravens are favored by a touchdown and a field goal. Who do you have in this one, sir?
First of all, I cannot believe that we are now officially 1 week away, less than 1 week away officially from
Mhm,
football. Houston Texans, Baltimore Ravens. This
mhm,
game, I have the Ravens winning. I'm sorry, Cole. I know you're liking the Houston Texans, but unfortunately,
mhm,
after everything we just said about your ownership
mhm,
situation going on there,
mhm.
I got to go with the Ravens in this first game of the season.
Yeah, well, I'm not offended because I'm going with the Ravens too. Uh, do I want the Texans to win? Yes. Do I know they don't have what it takes? Yes. Look, I love CJ Stroud. This will be his first NFL start, and I like what I've seen from him, but I understand he's a rookie. And he's going up against a guy who's about to be in his prime on the other end, and the Ravens defense is just better. And the Ravens offense is a little more stacked. So, yeah, Ravens. I have no issue with that at all. Hopefully, Texas can be better. We'll see. Buccaneers, they head to the Twin Cities and they played US Bank Stadium against the Vikings. Vikings are favored by 6. Who do you have?
I had the Vikings. There's been hype with Baker Mayfield over this offseason. He's not going to be what Tom Brady was to this team, okay? Even though the Buccaneers have been on the decline pretty much since they won that Super Bowl, they're still a pretty decent team. But Baker Mayfield, except for that one good game that he had with the Rams last year, where he came in and ran a 2-minute drill pretty much and won that game or whatever, he's not going to have similar success in Tampa Bay. He may have some flashes in the pan because he did do some good things in Cleveland. The problem has been is he's been dancing around to different teams, to different offenses for the past few years. And I feel like even though he has had one full offseason to learn this team, it's not going to be like Dalvin Cook's going to his new home and had very little time to look at the playbook before the season starts. He has had a whole offseason, and that will benefit him. However, on the other side of the ball, on the other team, you have a quarterback that's been there as long as Kirk Cousins has and has evolved into an elite quarterback. The team in the Minnesota Vikings are not elite, but Kirk Cousins has proved that he's an elite quarterback. And when you got that you're facing against, you're going to lose.
While I was perusing social media, I actually saw yesterday someone say that Baker Mayfield, I wish I'm joking when I'm saying this, Baker Mayfield will be the next Tom Brady.
What?
I wish I was joking. I wish I could say April Fools. I wish I could say I'm lying. I wish I could say that. Unfortunately, I saw that. No. Vikings should have this easily. Good Lord, I'm so sick. Just the thought of that. The Titans, they traveled to
I'm still
Orleans.
baffled. Was someone, please, when it comes to, was this a person that you knew, or was this like a meme they shared or something?
No, it was neither. It wasn't a meme. It was actually just a post in a forum that came down my timeline of Facebook. I'm like, no.
And nobody told that man or woman to do this.
Would you please shut the hell up?
No, not a one. Not a one. Not a one. Oh my gosh. Okay. Titans, they go to New Orleans. They play the Saints. Good Lord. People just mental midgets. The Titans are favored by a field goal in this one. Another 1 p.m. kickoff. Who do you have in this one?
This is going to be a closer game than people think. And I think with the ratings of under 3 are definitely a good call there. And the Saints have been building, and especially with what I feel like they're going to build on last year a little bit. In the quarterback carousel that we have going on in Tennessee, and especially with what Vrabes has been doing, I have the New Orleans Saints winning this game, first game of the year.
Okay. So you have the underdogs taking it. Okay. I'm with you. I there's too much uncertainty to be on offense other than for the Titans, other than Derrick Henry is going to tote the rock. Outside of that, there is too much uncertainty on offense. And people could say, well, hey, you got D Hop on the team, DeAndre Hopkins. Okay. And the quarterbacks that are able to throw him the ball on the team are they're not good enough. Meanwhile, I have a lot more faith in Derek Carr than any of the 3 quarterbacks that the Titans can trot out on the field. And I think to me, that spells a difference because to me, defensively, both teams are about a wash. And offensively, I just like Carr over Tannehill or Levis or Willis or whoever they want to start. Yeah, I'm with you. Saints to me is who I think will win it. Panthers, Falcons. This will be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, not Mercedes-Benz Superdome, like with the Saints. Another 1 p.m. kick. The road team, the Panthers, are favored by 3.5. Who do you have?
You know, with this team right here, and especially the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm thinking about the Panthers and the moves they made during this offseason. And I really like, even though he's backing up, I really like Taylor Heineke, which is why I'm rocking his old shirt, The Legend of Taylor Heineke, as he's diving for the mother, father, and pylon in that playoff game against Tuco Thomas Edward Patrick Brady II. That's where the legend of Taylor Heineke was born. In that game, diving for the pylon, just like on my shirt right now. And I have a feeling, whether it's in this
another Tom Brady reference,
whether it's in the first game of the season, Taylor Heineke's going to make an appearance this year for the Atlanta Falcons. And Taylor Heineke's going to show that he had what it took to be the starting quarterback in Washington. I do like Sam Howell over Taylor Heineke, but for what Taylor Heineke did in that short time as a quarterback for the Washington Commanders, I feel like he deserved another chance to show his talent somewhere else. I'm not fully sold on Desmond Ridder. However, regardless of who the quarterback is in this game, I don't have any belief in the Panthers. They're going to win this game when it comes to the Atlanta Falcons.
Well, the game is hinging on 5 men. And those 5 men are the offensive linemen who start for the Carolina Panthers. They are 300-pound mannequins. Because of that, the Falcons will take the game at home. Because Bryce Young will be running for his life. The Jaguars and the Colts kick off 1 p.m. again. The Jaguars are favored by 5, another road favorite. Who do you have in this one?
Jags take this game. Definitely with everything we said earlier, with the way this team performed during preseason, how they looked during training camp, my talks with insider student of the game, Kyle Nash, who covers the Jacksonville Jaguars, I am convinced that they will have a pretty good season. I'm not fully sold on 13 to 14 wins. The potential is there, but I feel
Yeah.
like they started off strong and have the momentum to get towards 10 to 11 to 12 potential wins for this season. I feel like they're going to start it off pretty hot. And they're going to beat a team that played like a complete batch of dumpster Pelicans last season, being the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, they're horrible. Look, when you're a team that ties the Texans in one game and you lose to them at home in the other game you play with them, you have no room to talk about being an NFL squad. Yes, you beat the Chiefs. That's your claim to fame last year, Colts. But you tied the Texans and lost to them. That is inexcusable because the Texans were horrible and they beat you and, and tied you in the two games you played against them. I don't see much improvement in this team. I don't. You have an issue with their best player on the team. You have a uh, rookie starting quarterback in Anthony Richardson, who he has to learn the ways of what it is to be an NFL quarterback. Um,
A
I
rookie
just
head coach?
Yes, you have a rookie head coach in Shane Steichen, the former offense coordinator for the NFC champion Eagles. So I don't really feel it. I don't. Not for the Colts. And the Jags are coming off of being the NFC South champs and having a playoff victory to boot. And I'm loving the direction the Jaguars are going. And I think they should easily handle the Colts. And they've had the number of the Colts the last couple of years. And I don't see that stopping. So I take the Jags as well. Another 1 p.m. kickoff. The Steelers host the 49ers. The 49ers are favored, but only by 2.5. So who do you have, sir?
It's a tough one, and it all depends on the quarterback play and if the momentum from last year carries into this year. This is going to be a
Hmm.
pretty interesting game to see because also when it comes to Pittsburgh, did they evolve
Mm,
with their quarterback situation over the offseason? It's going to be a
mm,
pretty big testament to these two sophomore quarterbacks coming into this game. However, Snowman's going to like my answer for this. I do
yeah.
feel like the 49ers edged this one out and barely scrape away with the win here.
Mm. You mentioned to me the key. Which sophomore or second year QB is going to progress further, and which of the team is going to rally around better the second year QB of their squads. Kenny Pickett, of course, for the Steelers, Brock Purdy, of course, for the 49ers. And to me, the best unit on that field is the 49ers defense. The Steelers defense is no slouch, but the 49ers defense is better. And I think because of that, they have the edge. I will take the 49ers as well on the road. Uh Cardinals. They go to Landover. They play the Commanders, and the Commanders are favored by a touchdown. Your thoughts and pick.
Going into this offseason, if Dan, and I was thinking, even though there's no way he's going to be the owner still, if Dan Snyder was still the owner of this team and the moves that were being made in his tenure were being made, this would be the toilet bowl matchup of week one.
It sure would.
But now that you have new ownership, and for the first time, and I can't even remember, you got FedEx Field completely sold out for week one. It's going to be
That's
loud.
amazing.
It's going to
That's
be a
amazing.
good team.
Wow.
It's not going to be a good matchup because we just talked about earlier how you got Kyler Duty and the team led by the ultimate dumpster Pelican in him. Okay. So when I think about the Arizona Cardinals, they're going to come into Landover. They're going to get mollywopped by the Commanders, and it's going to be a great start of the season for the Commanders. And no, that's not a homer pick. That's just reality.
I don't think it's a horn pick from you either. I I think the last time you really don't live in the area per se, but I think the last time DC was excited about their Commanders Of course, they weren't called the Commanders. But I'd probably have to say it would have to be early 90s. It would have to be the last time they won the Super Bowl, which is now going on 31 years. So 32 years. So to have the excitement be at this fever pitch, which I'm happy for you guys. I'm glad that you all can celebrate your team, because I got a chance to witness when DC was backing Washington. It was absolutely beautiful. I mean, it was beautiful to watch. And you might have the chance to actually live that. You will might have the chance to actually live that now. Uh, this is a new beginning all the way around, new ownership. You probably will have a new head coach real soon. You have a new QB. Uh, and and you have a team in the Cardinals where they're starting Josh Dobbs. They're in flux. The Commanders actually are not, which that's strange to say.
Yeah.
They actually seem to be going in a solid direction. So yes, I will take the Commanders as well, and I think this will be a cakewalk for them.
It
The
is absolutely wild even bringing up what you just said about having the shoe being on the other foot when it
Mhm.
comes to this Commanders team, because
Yeah.
putting it all together, we didn't think it was gonna be this much of a
Mm-mm.
turnaround, or at least having a sold out week 1, which again,
Not
I
this
can't
quick.
emphasize that enough, how great that is for that team and for that franchise. It was a matter of time before something like this happened. I'm just glad it
Yeah.
happened while we're still here. But one thing I want to touch up on, you said it's been about 30 years since there's been that big of energy. I would
Yeah.
have to argue one thing. In 2004, when Joe Gibbs was brought on for his second
Well,
tenure,
yeah.
that
True.
energy there,
True.
even though it was
True.
short-lived, it was a
True.
short-lived hype,
True.
not
True.
quite as big as what happened 30 years ago, but I have to say this
Mm.
is probably the second time within 30 years we've had this much hype on the team. But I feel like the momentum from this is going to last longer than Joe Gibbs, because Joe Gibbs was great coming in, but he didn't have the support from his ownership that he would have had if this happened in his time frame 2004. Had he came in, and then you had Josh Harris and Magic Johnson, and the momentum that's coming with that, we might have seen greater things from Joe Gibbs 2.0.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, because actually he took the team to the playoffs around that time too. But yeah, uh, yeah, the greatness that is Joe Gibbs. You're right. The city rallied around him when he came back, and they would loved him. I remember that. Uh, but I think it would be even a big, like you said, you think this is going to last longer. I do too, and I think the fever pitch is going to even be even more than that. But that is really a good point, though. Yeah, but I'm excited. I'm excited for you guys.
Just change the name. Doesn't have to go back to what it was, but just change it to something better. It's all I'm saying.
I'm with you on that too. And you'll see that in the commercial I made. And what quite possibly could be the matchup of the 1 p.m. kickoffs. The Browns hosted the Bengals. The Bengals are favored by 2.5. Who do you have?
I think they should be favored by more. It's the Bengals. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
look at what Joe Cool, the new era Joe Cool has done since he's been with the Bengals. He's, the only thing close to kryptonite for Patrick Mahomes. So, of course, with going up against this team known as the Browns, and the toilet bowl that they've been famously compared to playing when they've played in big notable games, I have to give it to the Cincinnati Bengals on this one.
I agree with you. I want to say the Browns can trip the Bengals up, and they did last year when they played in Cleveland. But I don't think we're dealing with that same team. And I think the odds makers were saying, okay, so Burrow has been gimpy all preseason, so he might not be 100% when he gets in my opinion. I don't think that matters. Just give him a pocket. He's good. And the Bengals have, I mean, the Browns have anything for the triumvirate of Boyd, of Higgins, and of Chase. They don't have anything to match up with that wide receiver triumvirate. They don't. They don't. They barely have something to match up with Joe Mixon, who comes out the backfield. Uh, The only way the Browns could actually make hay with the Bengals is if they can make the Bengals defense play on their heels. I don't think they have enough to where they can do that. So yes, I think the Bengals too are going to take it. And I agree. I think that line is a little bit too close. And I think the Bengals should be favored by more. But the Bengals nonetheless. All right, now we get into the 425 kickoffs. The Broncos host the Raiders. The Broncos, yes, the Broncos are favored by 4. Who do you have?
With the head coaching change and the fact that you might actually be able to get a chance to bring back the Russell Wilson of old and see some older glimpses of Russ, I feel like they've got a good chance. I mean, they do have some weapons around Russ on the offense. It just depends on his decision making. Because if he has a season like he had last year, he's out of there after this year. Because Sean Payton ain't going to deal with that because he wants to build a future with his team. But you have inconsistencies at the number one spot at quarterback, then of course you got to make some decisions. When it comes to going up against a team in this game that they're playing against, when it comes to the Las Vegas Raiders, they've had their own tales of woe. And when it comes to the decisions that they've made during this offseason, I'm not sold on them being a top tier team either. So when it comes to the battle within the division here, I think the Broncos do win this one, but I think 4-point favored is a little bit high. I think it needs to be a little less.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game's gonna be closer, but I do think that this is the Broncos game to lose. Just from the simple fact that this game, this is some really horrible analysis. Just because the game's in Denver, uh,
The
I'm not
altitude, yeah.
the altitude. I'm not sold on the Broncos offense. I am sold on their defense a little bit, although they're not name brand, so to speak, but they can keep the Broncos in games, and they did that last year to their detriment, which is unfortunate. But I'm not sold on the Broncos offense, and I'm definitely not sold on the Raiders defense. So I'm like, I mean the only real hope for the Raiders is Josh Jacobs. I mean, that's the only rare hope you have. Yeah, no, I say Broncos. The Chargers, they host the Dolphins. The Chargers are favored by 3, which means they think the Dolphins have a chance to win this game. Who do you have?
Well, Justin Herbert, it's time for you to prove that you earned that mother and contract extension during the offseason. It is time for you to prove it right now because I feel like in this game, you're going to start to prove that you are potentially worth that money when you get this victory over the Dolphins and their tale of woe they've had since last season.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Great defense that the Dolphins have. The offense, when it is rolling, is awesome. But they got to roll. And they're turning more and more into one-trick ponies now. It's as if you almost can say, okay, we dare you to run the ball. And then there is the case of Tua Tagovailoa having concussions, 3 last year. And that worry is still there. Meanwhile, you have a team in the Chargers where the defense is good when it's on, but they're hampered by Brandon Staley, who sometimes forgets that you should run the ball as well as pass. It seems like he forgets that there is the aspect of running the ball with his offense. But yes, Justin Herbert, awesome talent. It is time for him to earn that big time money deal that he signed. I think he will in this game. I think the Chargers will take care of business. Move back to San Diego, you chumps. I'm sorry. That editorial needed not to come out of my mouth. The Patriots host the Eagles. Another 4:25 p.m. kickoff. The Eagles are favored by 3.5. Who do you have?
I'm not part of that select few that thinks that just because old Zeke Elliott went to the Pats, it's going to tip them over the scales and give them the edge to go and make a run in the playoffs. No. And I am not sold on Mac and Chi as a quarterback either when it comes to a quarterback for the Patriots. What I can tell you is this. When it comes to the New England Patriots and the Philadelphia Eagles, it will not be a resemblance of their Super Bowl matchups, the two that they've faced each other in the past 20 years. It will be nothing like that. What we will see is a NFC, a current defending NFC champion of the Philadelphia Eagles coming in to Foxborough and molly-whopping the New England Patriots because Mac and Cheese is going to be stale in his home place. And Bill Belichick is going to be closer to us talking about him on the chopping block if he does not get this figured out in Foxborough.
Mac and cheese. Oh my god!
Doesn't even get he gets just mac and cheese because he is not cool enough to get the cheese. He's mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. Oh Lord! And yes, and to the one who actually, and this actually came from a Boston X account, to the one who said that Ramondre Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott is the best backfield in all of football.
That's terrible.
What a shame. Sad. Yeah. This game actually might be one of those where it's like, okay, we might be closer to seeing Bailey Zappi. Because Mac Jones, he just hasn't shown after the first year. He just hasn't shown much. He showed almost nil last year, and so now he has to show more than he did his rookie season, and he's gonna have to show a lot. And this game, nah. The Eagles, too much for him on defense, too much for him on offense. It would be an insult to me if the Eagles win by only a field goal.
Hey, when it comes to the suggestion of holding your breath for a victory by the Patriots this weekend, I say this.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Oh my goodness.
Flashback to Snowman in the Morning days.
Yes. Goodness gracious. Oh Lord. And another 4:25 p.m. kickoff out on the West Coast. This one, the Seahawks host the Rams. The Rams are 5-point dogs.
Yes.
Who do you have?
The Rams and the Seahawks here. Geno Smith led the Seahawks to a pretty decent season last year. You know, he gets his contract extension. He actually has a restored in confidence because of a team actually believing in him and giving him that number one opportunity. And then on the other side of the ball, you got the Rams, which we just talked about their debacle, Cooper Kupp, and the situation that led with them, and they're barely 1 win over 500 without Cooper Kupp in the last 5 years. I got to give this game to the Seahawks.
Yeah. The Rams won now, lost later. Or should I say now, they've won before, they're losing now. They bargained for that chip, they got it, now they're paying the price for it. And you're starting to see the disintegration right before your very eyes with this team. The talent is not there anymore, and the hunger is not there anymore. And then you have the Seahawks, which you have a team full of grinders, starting with Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, who I think still feels as though he has something to prove, although he did a wonderful job last year. And the Rams have no answer for him, especially in Seattle. This is Seahawks all day. This is the Seahawks game all day, all day, all day. And the last of the 4:25 kickoffs, the oldest rivalry in all of professional football. The Packers, the Bears, not on the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, but in Soldier Field. The Bears are favored by 1. Who do you have?
You know, with the way this situation is, and us talking about this NFC North division earlier, this could be the closest to complete, toilet bowl action for us for the entire week here, because you got two teams that aren't really expected to do much. You got the Bears coming off of one of their worst seasons in quite some time. You got the Packers coming off of 8-9 season without Captain H. Now you got a new quarterback who did learn from Captain H for a few years. Hopefully he didn't learn his vacation habits, but hopefully he did learn how he conducts himself within the team. And if he did and carries that into with the momentum of a decent preseason that he had, the Packers are going to win this game.
Many people believe that when they saw that performance of Justin Fields throwing for 129 yards, 3 for 3, and 2 touchdowns, where the ball out of his hand only traveled maybe 1 yard out of the 3 throws he made, that all of a sudden this was a proclamation of him being the guy. And I'm like, it's preseason. It's August. If he does this in September, different story. That was August. I'm looking at a team in the Bears where I mentioned with the Panthers having 5 300-pound mannequins. Well, they have 5 300-pound mannequins there too. The Packers to me are a more solid team, and I'm not sold on the Packers. But compared to the Bears, I think they are. I think they are better defensively. I think they're a little deeper offensively. And the only place where you could say, well, the Packers may not have an advantage is quarterback. Because, yes, I know Love and Fields have been in the NFL at the same amount of time. Fields has had more action on the field than Love has. So there is your tilt toward the Bears. However, there's just too many pluses for the Packers for me to just ignore them. So, yes, I think the Packers continue their ownership of the Bears, and this one without Mr. Ayahuasca. Well, with that concludes this week's. And now we go to the final tally, and this is where we get to put forth thoughts of the previous week and the week to come. And Drew, I will let you start things off.
Football is finally back. Like, I have been so waiting for this moment since we had the Super Bowl, because of course, once it's over, I will say this past offseason we did with having the XFL, it kind of helped soften the blow a little bit of missing football. But now, since the preseason is over, we can finally look forward to some real action this upcoming week. I just hope that these guys who've been missing time, whether it's a contract holdout or just to keep their bodies fresh, don't come in with too much rust, because when that happens, that's when you start seeing an increase in injuries. So as long as they've kept themselves in shape, practiced, whether it's been with personal trainers outside of it and having more one-on-one practicing rather than within a group, as long as you're still staying within a routine and ready to rock and roll, you'll be good to go. I'm excited about this upcoming week in football. Very excited about the upcoming week in football. I mean, so excited, especially with the new show that I got coming out tomorrow as well to talk a little bit more football. I feel like the time is only as good as ever to give you guys a sneak peek of this. And when that happens, the song that's behind it is fully endorsed by the guy who created it, and it's going to happen each and every week. Here it goes.
Rolling, no looking back. My team is for real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. Good point, who's next? Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them dead. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live a regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Watch the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet hit the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Shout out to J. Cool, who created that song, that masterpiece for that team. Reached out to him on Instagram yesterday. and was very surprised with the quick response as he fully endorses and has been sharing the you know what out of CGR related stuff. So, Commander's Gridiron Report, the hype is over. Finally gets on the ground tomorrow. I'm excited for week 1 football, as Cole asked me. I'm excited that we finally got total football talk off the ground. And I am excited that CGR is going to make its way to the airwaves tomorrow. And we still haven't even gotten back to episode 101 of the In or Out Sports Debate. There's a lot of fire coming over the next couple of weeks. You guys just get ready to see it.
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can scrape the smile on my face. I'm so happy for you, man. I really am. I really am. Oh my gosh. I am so happy for you. Yes. Commander's Gridiron Report tomorrow, 3:05 p.m. Eastern. I'm looking forward to it, man. I really am. And I'm not even a Commanders fan, and I'm looking forward to it.
And I appreciate it, Cole, because you know, if it wasn't for your support and others as well that have been along this journey of me getting back to where I was, like this has definitely been. I take my hat off to you. So for us to even have this show that we have now here, it means just as much to me as it does to you. And we have had one great show today, and we've had a decent we've had a decent viewership throughout this first episode too. So thank you all who are watching this right now live or syndicated, because without you guys, we have nobody to show this to. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Exactly. And I agree. Thank you so much. And it's funny that you mentioned that, Drew. That's where I am about it. Yes, I am happy that we are only a few days away from the NFL season beginning, and the my favorite time of the year sports wise beginning as well, because we follow sports all year round. We follow other sports, as Drew mentioned at the top of the program. But football is the sport for me, and I think it's that same for Drew. And it's wonderful that we share that same passion. And I can talk about my love of the gridiron and my love of the NFL and my love of players and my love of the action. But I am driven mostly now by the fact that I have a partner who only 5 months ago uh had a health scare. I'm not going to go too far into it, but because of it, it spurred him to create things like this and to take advantage of moments like this. And when I saw him wheel his way, and I mean wheel and will. When I saw him wheel and will his way to get to the point where he can put forth great content, in or out's even better than ever before. Uh, Sports Essays Unleashed, better than ever before. Uh, this program here, CGR, about to debut tomorrow. It wells me up with joy that I get a chance to say that I create alongside one of the greatest content creators ever. And I'm not saying this because the red light's on. I'm saying that because it is fact. And not only do I get to be alongside of one of the greatest content creators ever, I get to do this talking about the sport I love the most. And it barely gets better than that. There's other instances where it does, but there's very few. And I feel so good right now. I feel like I am in heaven, literally. That I get a chance to talk football freely with a guy who loves football as much as I do. And he loves life like I do. And together we're going to celebrate football and life as we always do and always will. And I think that is our final tally. Now we have some housekeeping notes before we do wrap this up. The time for Total Football Talk will not be on Sundays. No, no, no. We want you, just like we would like ourselves, to be ready and willing and able to just simply sit back and watch all the football action, because right now it's 2 p.m. in the East Coast now. Yeah, you would be well within the second quarter of the game that you're watching. So we wouldn't be doing this now We will be doing this every Tuesday. So mark it on your calendar, not this Tuesday, but starting next Tuesday, which would be the 12th. The 12th of September, starting then and thereafter. Every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, 1 p.m. Pacific, Total Football Talk will come at you. We'll review the week's actions that passed. We will preview the upcoming week, and we'll give you the news and notes, have the grand champ and the snowflake of the week, and we'll also give you who's on the chopping block too. So remember, Total Football Talk, the time that it will debut. Next Tuesday and every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central, on the Sotoba Media YouTube channel and the Comin Media Incorporated YouTube channel and all other places where you can find it, but definitely on those two YouTube channels primarily.
And hey, people, don't get too upset with us not being on this Tuesday. The only reason, and you can blame it on the holiday, Labor Day weekend, it messed it all up. That's why we are now and not on Tuesday.
That's right. That's right. But I'm glad we're on now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you have any closing remarks, sir, before we do head on out?
Just to add to like with what you had with your final tally, man, like I'm really excited about this too, and feel the exact same way about you when it comes to your content creations. Like we're uplifting each other out here in these streets,
Yeah.
and it takes great collaborations like this, and other ones that we've mentioned throughout this show with other content creators that we've been that we're going to advertise with the ads and stuff throughout these shows.
Yes.
It's working alongside you guys. It's making everybody better because
Yeah.
Teamwork really truly makes the dream work. And I have worked without throwing anybody under the bus, and it's been over decades, multiple decades since I've been a part of the workforce. I've worked part of many teams that didn't have that much cohesion within it. And for a very short period of time of us collaborating for about a year now, a little over a year now at this point, we've built in a very short period of time stuff that it takes people years to build that kind of chemistry. And I appreciate it and looking forward to many more episodes of this.
Likewise, my friend. And the last content creator we'll shout out is, of course, our brother Snowman, Brian Snow, because that's where we met. So you can check out Snowman in the morning, every morning, and you can check me out every morning as well, weekday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. 10 p.m. 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. That is
Don't
Snowman in the
be too
morning
humble,
with Will
Cole.
Johnson.
Yeah, but there you go. There you go. That's why I was about to say, don't be too humble, Cole, because there is a with Cole Johnson in there. That Snowman in the morning. You are just as big a part of that show as he is. Don't you ever forget that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yeah, that is Snowman in the morning, every weekday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central. And we thank you, Snowman, for bringing this partnership together. And continued success to you. And I'm glad you kicked cancer squarely in the behind. Keep on pushing, brother. Keep on pushing because you're doing major things.
Bow to your sensei. That is
That's
what I
right.
do for Sensei Snowman.
And speaking of that, you can catch those two, Mr. Snowman and the Sensei Drew, every Tuesday. Yes, this show will come on every Tuesday, and that show comes on every Tuesday. But that one comes on every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern. On the Snowman Multimedia YouTube channel and the Sotoba Media YouTube channel. That is Sports Senseis Unlimited. Drew Willingham and Brian Snow. Well, I've enjoyed this, and I hate to end this now, but I think it's time to. Thank you for liking. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for subscribing. And thank you for hitting that notification bell to any and all content that emanates from Sotoba Media. And it's great content from there. And the Comin Media Incorporated YouTube channels. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for making the first of many of these shows absolutely wonderful. For Drew Willingham, I am Cole Johnson, here to say that we are two football, geeks.
Yeah, I'm with
heads.
that. I'm with that. Yeah, we roll with that.
Yeah, we are two football geeks and two football heads with one heart and one mind, and that is to love the sport of football and bring that love straight to you. Because the hard hitting, and go ahead.
And you get what you give.
That's right. You do. You do get what you give. because we do give you the hard-hitting gridiron news, entertainment, and other things as well. So with Drew, I'm Cole. Thank you so much for watching the first of many episodes of Total Football Talk. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We will see you next Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Until then, bye, everybody.
We don't have to go home, but we got to get out of here. We'll see y'all next week.